everybody. It's Friday. It's Avatar Jim and Amadeus here. Raining on the East Coast. So, of course, that means one thing. Wi-Fi is very spotty. So, here we go. Amadeus, when last we left our group here yesterday, we were talking about our perfect plan for the MLS, and you've got an update on that. So, let's go to the update center and tell us what's going on.
Yeah, this is the perfect opportunity. So we're talking about Miami bringing in Neymar as a massive move to help grow the MLS as a whole. Obviously, the team Inter Miami, but the MLS as a whole. And definitely, so I looked into it after the show, and this is the perfect time to go try and get Neymar because the Brazilian government is fining him $3.5 million for the man-made lake he has at his house in Rio de Janeiro. So I say, hey, Miami, go build him a lake. He's obviously disgruntled in Brazil right now, and you can bring him in easily.
Absolutely. And the other thing too is they got lakes in Miami. They don't have to build one. They can just give him one. If he wants a causeway, they can give him that. How you want saltwater or do you want freshwater? We'll put fish in it, whatever you want. Give you both.
He just wants his house on the lake, and that's all. Right. That's all Miami needs to do. He's obviously not happy since he's getting fined from the Brazilian government.
They could pay that.
And then with his contract situation over in PSG, it's basically like PSG doesn't want to. They don't want to keep him on the team again next year. They're trying to give him to Barcelona, and Barcelona doesn't want to take him back unless PSG is willing to pay his salary. And at this point, PSG is considering paying his salary just to get him off the team. So, this is the perfect situation, man.
Take it while you get a chance. I mean, it's. These things do not come up that often.
If Miami offered him a contract, they are literally the only team that actually wants him right now.
Yeah. That would
right? The Brazilian government doesn't even want him living down there. Right. So this is what I'm saying. It's like the perfect storm of everything in his life coming down on him.
Now, yes.
Miami can swoop in and save him. Just get him a lake, get him a house.
Yeah.
And then talk to Messi about splitting that Apple deal, and you got Neymar in the MLS.
Bingo, done and done. It's crazy. It is crazy. We're talking about injuries, right? And trading people when the value may not be there. In other words, you were mentioning, who was it that you were mentioning that in the pre-show that they want to send the guy to Barcelona, but they don't want to pay him. In other words, if PSG wants him to go to Barcelona, they're going to have to take up his contract.
Yeah, it's Neymar.
It is Neymar. Okay. That happens a lot in Major League Baseball at the trade deadline. And what happens is, you'll take a portion of, the owners will take a portion of the salary that the other team owes, the player. So they'll take on that contract. A lot of times, and I used to work with Jim Bowden when Jim was general manager in Washington, and I was working at the Washington Examiner, and Jim had a column every Friday about the Nationals, and I would work on it with him, and so he was going to make a trade, and he said. I want to write, he literally is on the phone while we're doing this, and he clicks off and comes back to me. And I said, what were you doing? He said, well, I was making a trade with Cincinnati. I said, oh, okay. What's the deal? And he goes, well, I won't name the pitcher, but there was a pitcher for an outfielder. And so he said, he goes, I just want to let them know I'm not requiring physicals, be placed on their guy. And I said, what? Yeah. He said, yeah, he says, they're waiving physicals. I'm waiving physicals. And I said, why? He says, because I know the guy that I sent to them. I said, yeah. He says, he's got a bum arm. But they want him. So I was like, okay. He goes, I know that what they're, because if we did physicals, he goes, half the trades would never pass because these guys at this point, in the league. I mean, think about it. You're 2/3 of the way through the season. you're going to have some bumps and bruises on you that's going to show up, and that may, alter the trade. Well, if you waive that, then you're just taking a chance, and evidently Jim Bowden was willing to take a chance.
Yeah, I think it happens actually a lot in sports.
Oh, sure.
People probably don't realize it. It happens a lot in soccer. As you mentioned, it happens in baseball. I've even seen it happen in the NFL. How many times a team wants to get rid of a quarterback, an older quarterback in the later stages of his contract, and it's just like, take him. We'll pay the salary. Just take him. We need a younger guy in here. We need to get rid of him.
Well, I mean, that happened. That happened with Baker Mayfield.
That's exactly the example I was thinking of too.
Baker Mayfield and the Browns opened against Carolina. They literally traded him to Carolina, and so they were paying both quarterbacks. They were paying for their quarterback, and they were paying for Carolina's quarterback. So yeah, that fell into the category of this is really weird. But it is it's the way things go. Couple of quick notes, and that would be tomorrow on July the 8th. Panama is playing Qatar, and that's at AT&T Stadium in as part of the CONCACAF Gold Cup. And Charlotte is taking on Cincinnati to kick off the MLS games of the week, which also include Columbus at New York City, DC United at our super team, the Miami team, Montreal, and Atlanta, New York at New England. Is that Red? Yeah, Red Bull at New England. Toronto, St. Louis. That, by the way, is the Apple free game of the night. Chicago, Nashville, Houston, Kansas City, Minnesota, Austin, Colorado, Dallas, Mexico, Costa Rica, which we already talked about, Salt Lake, Orlando, LA, Philly, Los Angeles FC is at home against San Jose, and Vancouver and Seattle. We talked about that being a battle, and that'll be at BC Place. So there you go.
That's our rivalry. We literally talked about it yesterday.
Oh, and Sunday, just for the knowledge, Guatemala versus Jamaica, and the U.S. versus Canada.
Yeah, I think these are the quarters for the Gold Cup. Yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So you're getting really the two best teams out of the way, right in the quarters there. Canada, U.S. Right? Someone's got. Hey, it's better for Jamaica. Like I said, I think.
Yeah, if you're a Jamaican fan, you're in tall cotton. So yeah. 100%.
I think they'll probably actually beat Guatemala in that game.
Yeah,
it's minus 150 right now. That'll be minus 200 by tomorrow.
Sounds like jets are flying.
Those are motorcycles.
Okay. Yeah. So all right. Okay. Let's. There's obviously nothing going on really of circumstance today, other than our attempt to get Neymar to Miami. We'll keep you posted on that one. And let's see what else is going on. I don't know. I think it's just baseball for that matter today. And I think it was another wet day at Wimbledon. I'll check that real quick. But I think Wimbledon is like 6 weeks behind in the tournament. But there's going to be a lot of stuff going on this weekend, almost as much as was on last weekend. So we will definitely see what. It's dark there now, so they're not playing at Wimbledon. But right now, let's see what we got. Men's singles in the third round, and actually, it is. They are still playing a little bit. They
got the lights on.
They must. Because everybody else is. Sharapova. No. I mispronounced that. That was wrong. Brody and Sharapova. Okay.
Oh, the Canadian. I know.
Yeah, your boy, your Canadian guy.
Just call him Dennis.
All right, I'll make it easy. Dennis. Dennis lost the first set, 6-4. Won the second set, 6-2. Won the third set by a score of 7-5.
I actually had somebody say to me today, I think I'm going to take Brody because Dennis sucks.
Well, Brody's up 5-4 in the fourth. And that's your update on that.
Yeah, I don't know. The Canadian men are kind of weird to me because so for the longest time we had Milos Raonic, and then he kind of just dropped off. And right around the time that was when Dennis, like this was a few years ago, all of a sudden Dennis, they just call him Chapo up here, but he was like the star. He was supposed to be like the men's star for Canada, and like he would do well, but he would never really, crack semifinals in a lot of these tournaments, especially the bigger tournaments. And so he was always kind of just, there, but not great. And then before he even got his chance really to win a tournament and claim his Canadian stardom, Felix came up and was like the next best thing. And now Felix has just been an absolute joke the last 6 months. He did have a very good stint the last few years, but yeah, now he's just completely dropped off, and it's like we can never get a consistent man for the tennis.
It's well, the U.S. have had some problems as well in that same area. I mean, they've dominated for a long time with the Williams sisters in in women's tennis, but hasn't been much of a bump when it comes to men. It's been a long time since we've had at least even a top 5 player. So
it's just a North American. Well, you guys have Taylor Fritz now. Actually, he's been.
We do, but I mean, he's still yet to prove himself. So,
or is it Taylor Fritz? Or no, maybe I'm thinking about TFO. It's a lot of T's, a lot of T's and F's.
Right?
Is TFO the one that's highly ranked? I think it might be TFO. He was killing it the last 2 years or so. I know he's moved up. I swear there was an American in the top 10 last time I looked at the ATP rankings. And it was somebody I followed years ago, right? And they were never this good. So I was shocked when I saw them in the top 10 this year. I said, good for them, right? It's about time they worked their way up. I'm going to check the rankings right here.
Right now, the highest ranking U.S. player is.
Oh, they're both there.
Yeah, I was just looking at it.
9 and 10 is what I have. Fritz and TFO.
There you go.
Taylor Fritz and Francis TFO. A lot of T's and F's.
Right, exactly. Yeah.
TFFT.
TFFT. It's like the T squared, T whatever. But Tom Brady.
There's Felix, number 12, right behind him.
Just hovering outside the top 10. Friday night baseball, Toronto, Detroit. Atlanta, Tampa Bay is your Apple Plus game of the week. Philly and Miami, that's going to be interesting because a good weekend for Philly and Miami could vault them into that or close to that second place spot. A bad weekend in Miami could bury them.
I think there's a lot of matchups like that this weekend. Very, very hot teams playing against each other.
Well, Philly, I don't know how much hotter you can get than Philly. I mean, geez.
Oh, well, the Braves and the Rays.
That's true.
That's series and a half right there.
Right. Tampa Bay having their first 5-game losing streak. And, you don't want to try to let me just put it this way. I wouldn't want to have to break my losing streak by playing a weekend series with Atlanta before the All-Star break. Not exactly your perfect situation. Texas is at DC where it's raining at the moment, but they don't play until 7:00. The Cubbies are it's a rare trip, Chicago Cubs, to the Bronx for a game with the Yankees.
And you're getting Tyone.
Yeah.
It's this former team here.
There you go. Yeah, Kansas City, Cleveland, that one is going to be friends and family only. Oakland at Boston. Boston could use Oakland at this point. Seattle, the team that we say okay, prove it to us, is in Houston against the Astros for a weekend series.
Yeah, they won 5-1 last night. And
Yeah.
that's another one of these series where I think, the Mariners are hot, and so are the Astros too.
Sure.
So I'm very interested to see what happens there.
Yeah. Now, Baltimore and Minnesota face off each other. That is your alternate Apple TV game. So if you don't like the Rays and Braves and you want an American League deal, well, your alternate is Baltimore and Minnesota. The thing I like about that with the because it's streaming, you can choose which one you want. You can have the Tampa Bay game against Atlanta, or you can have the Baltimore game against Minnesota. Either one, you don't have to worry about it. So that's kind of cool. All right, so St. Louis is at the White Sox. Other than the nice jerseys, the White Sox haven't been doing much. And St. Louis, I wouldn't be surprised. I wouldn't be surprised if St. Louis at the All-Star break. I'm sorry, at the trade deadline. If they're not in contention, they got a ton of contracts like we talked about, like Paul Goldschmidt and guys like that. I could see them moving.
Yeah, they got Nolan Arenado. They got a bunch of. They have a lot of talent on that team.
They got a lot of dead money on that team.
It's shocking that they're even in this position at all. But you're right. They're close to they're definitely over 10 games under 500. I think they were close to.
And as bad as that division is, and we've bemoaned it, Cincinnati is just ridiculous. I mean, they're just they're playing out of their mind. They have a series this weekend with Milwaukee. That's going to be crucial to how which one of those plays in the survivor pool.
I thought that one was a 6-game series, Jim, until I looked at the dates, and it turns out so the Reds play the Brewers 3 games now, and then they play them again 3 games right after the All-Star break.
Yeah, that happened a couple of times the last couple of years, and it used to never happen. And you're like, wow. So 6 of the next games basically is going to decide at least who has, the wind at their back heading into what in essence is the pennant, stretch of the run. The Buccos are in Arizona. Arizona desperately needs to have a team like the Pirates show up. The Mets, here's the underachiever game of the series of the weekend. The Mets and San Diego. Although, again, the Mets are playing better. We'll see. The Angels.
Both are coming off sweeps because the Padres just swept the Angels. So that's another one that I'm looking at maybe these two teams are finally starting to gain some traction.
And then we go to the I-5, battle between the Dodgers and the Angels. A 3-game set starting tonight.
This one's weird. This one's actually 2 games.
Oh, it's only 2?
Yeah, they don't play on Sunday. They played 2 games last week in Anaheim, and now the Dodgers are at home. And they don't play on Sunday.
Neither of them is playing anybody on Sunday?
No, they're both just off Sunday. And I was thinking, so at first I was like, oh, well, maybe because they're hosting. And then I thought about it. I was like, the game's in Seattle. So why do the 2 LA teams need the Sunday off?
Right.
It's not like you're going to get the stadium ready here and you're not playing it in that city.
Nope. And Colorado is at, San Francisco for a lovely trip out there. So that's our baseball. We don't have any baseball scores, obviously, at this time because everybody's playing baseball tonight. And there's your scoreboard and keeping track of it from that standpoint. We give you the MLS games to catch up on tomorrow. Things seem to be moving along in that regard. We're talking about the tennis situation and what's happening over at SCW 19, which is the metro stop for Wimbledon, for those who care, or those who are listening to us who might want to go over and see. Because guess what? We told you about it the other day, and it's going to happen. They're going to play tennis this Sunday at Wimbledon. Normally, as we said,
you called it, Jim.
Normally, they said that was a day off, but with all the rain, they can't afford days off. So they may have to add days to the week to get this one through. And so
you called it, Jim. You were all over it yesterday. You said they're going to have to play Sunday if they want to, finish the tournament on time.
Yeah, they can't, run out and they can't have everybody playing, in the little domey part of that building. So they got to play somewhere. And out in the outer courts, it's not going to help you if it's raining. And, who would have thunk it, right? Rain in England in the summer.
I'm sure the Royals love their Wimbledon, but they don't want to spend 2 straight months in the box just waiting out right now.
Right. Although it's funny, they don't, sometimes there's the Duke of who knows, right? That's the person who, so there is someone royal in the box, but, the degree of royalty is sometimes suspect, right?
Depends on the match, right?
Right, exactly. If you got 220 versus, remember 175 on the score. Well, you wouldn't have them in the center court anyway. But if you had, 2 people that, that no one was terribly interested in, you're definitely not going to see any royals out there watching it. The box will be open and they'll have. There's always, I give it to her. Billie Jean King seems to be available and willing to go and watch matches from the royal box, which is, good on her.
She's a massive icon.
I'm sorry?
She's a massive icon in the sport for the women's side.
100%. And she deserves it. So,
absolutely.
I'm happy that she gets that kind of thing.
Yeah, and especially, at that age, right? Like
you should be. I mean,
she's retired, right? She's made all that money. So if I were her, absolutely, I would be watching every single, Wimbledon match that I can from a royal box.
I'd be, she gets a good seat no matter where she goes. So
yeah, she's always like front and center. I see her, and it's interesting. It's funny you bring that up because now that I think about it, like every tournament I've ever watched, she's always somewhere there, and especially in like the later stages, right, of the big tournaments. You always see her right in like center or on the sideline somewhere, right?
If you are a tennis fan, what I would strongly suggest folks that you do is this past week there was a great story of the friendship between Chris Evert and Martina Navratilova. And there was a really good story in the Washington Post about it. And if you just Google, Chris and Martina in the Washington Post, they'll pop up and you can read it. But it's a very, very interesting and good talk about the fact that how they have stayed friends, from almost their teens all the way through to now. And they've been there for everybody. And I once kidded Chris about the best relationship she ever had was with Martina. But it's a friendship, and it's almost like a sister's deal. And it's quite good. And funny thing was that Chris started out and she was basically, Martina couldn't beat her. And then Martina decided to become one of the first to go forward and train, like a true athlete. And I'm not saying tennis players aren't athletes. I'm just saying that back in the day, there wasn't a lot of, physical, other than hitting the ball and running a bit. There wasn't a lot of weight training or any of that kind of stuff, or nutrition or any of it. So, once
to be fair, Jim, I think a lot of sports were like that. Like if you go,
that's true,
really back.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Like we're talking like 70 plus years in some of these sports that have been around for like 100 years in some of these leagues. Absolutely, these guys were going out there, not a single, no weight training. Actually, it was something I heard Boomer Esiason, the former NFL quarterback, talk about. He was like, even in the days when he was playing, like they weren't putting their bodies through hell in the gym every day in the off season, for example, right? So,
well, yeah, Well, in the old days, and we're talking now in the '60s and early '70s, um, a lot of the Major League Baseball players had other jobs in the offseason. Brooks Robinson had a great story about the fact that when Brooks played baseball, he, if they didn't make the playoffs, he had to go back to Arkansas every year and sell insurance. So if if you really have yet another job to make ends meet as they used to do, and it's kind of funny to talk about that now. Same thing in professional football, guys. After the season went over, would go and have a second job.
Still happens in the CFL up here.
Yeah, that's true. And so times have changed. I mean, you've got guys now who obviously for every sport train year round, and it's a whole different situation. But when Martina started that, she was very much in the vanguard of women's athletes training, and trying to work themselves up and get the bodies in place to have a good season, right? And so that was not something Chris adopted until way later in her career, and it basically turned Martina around. I mean, she was physically better at that point than anybody on the tour, on the women's side, and so she could do, she could do a 3-set game and not be dragging. So she was a leader in that.
Well, I'm sure it helped with strength of serve too.
Yeah, no, 100% it did, and so that was quite the move. And then from that point forward, everybody, both men and women's side of tennis, got into that, and it paid off. So it's a good story, and if you're into into tennis or just into reading an interesting story about sports, that's a good one. So yeah, there's that. So what's other than we talked about the MLS and the CONCACAF over the weekend? What are some of the things you're going to pay attention to over the weekend?
Yeah, well, I'll definitely be watching the Brazilian League over the weekend. I am red hot in the Brazilian League right now. I'm on an 18-5 run. So
whoa.
Looking forward to continuing that. There's some really good matchups too in Brazil. Probably. So this one's tomorrow at. Hold on, I just got to do. I think it's at 8:00 here. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So 8:00 on the eastern side. Okay. We get Palmeiras and Flamengo in the Brazilian League.
I like Flamengo just because of the name.
Oh, I love Flamengo. You can ask Sean. That's my team, my beloved Flamengo. That's my South American team. But those are by far, the standings don't reflect it. Mm-hmm. But Palmeiras and Flamengo are the two best teams in all of South America right now. Flamengo, the defending Copa Libertadores champions from last November, December, and Palmeiras is the Brazilian League title defending champion. So these are definitely, they're
a blood battle.
They're playing they've been playing well the last few seasons. They're giants in Brazil. They have the best depth and talent. So that's gonna, if you can carve some time out, I highly recommend watching Palmeiras versus Flamengo.
And that's tomorrow.
Tomorrow night at 8:00. That's going to be a while. And then on Sunday, this one's at 5:30 in the afternoon. Grêmio plays Botafogo. Now, Grêmio is a newly promoted side, but Grêmio's in second place right now. They have Luis Suarez, the famous Uruguayan Luis Suarez on their team, who's been leading them all season. And they're going up against Botafogo, who is leading the Brazilian League right now. And they got a 9-point lead over Palmeiras, or they got a 9-point lead over Grêmio in second place. Or is it 9? It might be 6 points now. It might be 9 points. Anyway, but yeah, right now it's basically it's Grêmio, Palmeiras, Flamengo in those 2, 3, 4, all like very close in points, and then Botafogo almost 10 points above everybody else. So that is a very important match on Sunday. Gremio versus Botafogo.
Right. They're on Sunday in prime time on USA Network is the it's the 400. It's used to be called the Firecracker 400 because they used to have it on the 4th of July, but this year, it's actually the third year that they have not had that race on the 4th of July. They moved it from Daytona, and they now have it, at Atlanta Motor Speedway. It's called the Quaker State 400, and if you're, I don't know, it's too bad we don't have Rye here to tell us what's going on. But the cool thing about Atlanta, Daytona, and Talladega are the three big super speedways. They're the 2 mile, or so racetracks. Every time, if you're a fan of watching crashes, it happens here. Super speedway crashes, and I don't. I'm not sitting here saying I like to see it. It's not I don't want to see anybody get hurt, but you're looking at $6, $7, $8 million cars, being crashed over like a demolition derby in these races, and it's just the super speedway, the way that they run them. It's crazy, but it's a fun watch. So USA and Peacock. Stream it on Peacock, watch it on USA. 7 o'clock on Sunday night. Probably won't be over until after midnight, but the way that NASCAR races go. But it's worth a shot as well.
Yeah, I'm sure Rye Cape will be all over that.
Oh, yeah.
I'll talk to him about that one.
Yeah, there you go. We would be remiss, and we don't want to do that, if we didn't mention that on the West Coast, we have another U.S. Open golf tournament, and that's the LPGA, and they're playing out there in Monterey at that beautiful, golf course out there that's that we enjoy to seeing whenever we can get to it, and that's Pebble Beach Golf and Country Club, and it's going to be fun. I mean, there's going to be some more primetime golf. Right now, Bailey Tardy is leading. She's 7 under through 16. Hoya Kim is also at 7 under. She is on the 10th hole. Allison Corpus is 6 under. She's on the 10th hole. Leona McGuire is -5. She is on the 9th hole, and Juk Lin is -4. She doesn't tee off for another couple of minutes. So it's been a grind early yesterday. Annie Dunnigan, who is a young college girl who just turned pro, shot a 69 yesterday. So, just that's not a bad situation. Just coming out of college, and your first tournament is the U.S. Women's Open at Pebble Beach, and you rock the course at 69. That's definitely impressive stuff. So yeah, the women's Open is all weekend, Pebble, and it's a Golf Channel and NBC. So you should be able to check that out. And there's some really good women golfers. I mean, I enjoy watching the women play golf. They're much more strategic than the guys. The guys just rip and grip, but the women, they play much more tactically. So there you go. The women's tees, U.S. Open, from that standpoint. Women's U.S. Open, NBC and Peacock this weekend from that standpoint. So there we got that. Got that plug in. So there you go. So what are we looking at on your choices for what's going on this weekend? I know you're going to be all over a bunch of stuff. So let's promote what's going on there, my friend.
Yeah, so you can get my plays at BigAl.com and PickAdvisor.com. I have a lot of baseball up today. I like the card today. Got 5 baseball plays, 1 in Argentina, but yeah, it wasn't a big soccer day for sure. But over the weekend, I'll have some MLS. I'll have some Brazilian plays, maybe even a Gold Cup play in the CONCACAF. We will see. But yeah, it'll be a lot of baseball and soccer. So make sure you go check out my plays because
they're in our show box below, because we'll make sure that people find them. So by all means, check out our show box, because
yes, and you're going to need them, because once the All-Star break comes next week, there's only going to be soccer for those 5 days.
That's right.
The Tuesday they have the one game on.
You know, it's always been, for some reason, the one day that there doesn't seem to be anything. And you would think, let's do something really cool, right? The one day that isn't is the day after the All-Star break. There's just nothing happening in sports. And you would think, I know a friend of mine, Jeff Ginther, who used to be the promotions director at Turner, was constantly saying, why don't they have a special made for TV, tennis event or something like that, something that is across, it's going to attract casual viewer. And I can't say that Jeff was wrong. I mean, he definitely had some good thoughts there, but nobody's taken up on it.
Well, the All-Star game is Tuesday,
yeah,
and teams don't play again till Friday.
Right. Mm-hmm.
So you have Wednesday and Thursday with just absolutely nothing.
Well, you would hope that the MLS would capitalize on Wednesday soccer.
You would hope. You would hope.
Since we're deputy commissioners, we should
emphasis on the hope. And you know what? That's what we'll end the show with. I'll tell you right now. If you're getting that Wednesday, yes, somebody had a brain over at the MLS. Wednesday, July 12th is a pretty decent slate.
Okay, there we go.
Looks like almost every game is playing. I think they're makeup games, because I see that Colorado Portland July 4th game that got rained out. That one's going to continue on Wednesday. I think it got rained out.
It must have been lightning and weather like that, because normally if it's just rain, they don't stop it. So lightning happens. That ends it right there.
Definitely, because I was on that game, and they literally it was just canceled. So.
It's okay. I mean, you don't want anybody to get hurt. So there you go. All right. Well, everybody have a good weekend. You can hit us up on Twitter if there's something that you want to know. You see our handles right down below the names, and by all means, check it out. And if you have a question, hit us up. We're more than happy to answer you. Okay, guys? All right. For Amadeus, I'm Jim saying so long, everybody. We will see you next week.